Okay, so the first thing I want to start with is ironing my fusible interfacing onto my placket pieces and also my facing pieces. So for this part, I am using non-woven fusible interfacing. So yeah, I'm going to be ironing this onto all of the pieces that need interfacing. Like I said, it will be your two plackets and also your facing pieces. Now I'm going to take all of my pieces that I've ironed, where I've ironed on the interface, and I'm going to set them aside. Then I'm just going to quickly start working on my straps. And for my straps, what I do is I just fold them in half lengthwise with the right sides facing each other. And I'm just going to stitch all the way. Then when I'm done, I'm going to cut off this excess seam allowance and then turn the pieces inside out. Then I'm going to press them with an iron to make them nice and neat and flat. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to my facing pieces. I'm going to take my two back pieces and put them together, right sides together. Then I'm going to stitch the center back seam. Yeah, then I'm going to open up that seam. Then I'm going to move on and take my front pieces and put them right sides together with the back piece. And then I'm going to stitch them at the side seam. Then I'm going to take the other front piece and I'm going to do the exact same thing. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to take my two back pieces for the dress and I'm going to put them right sides together and I'm just going to stitch that center back seam. Now I'm going to grab my front piece and then I'm going to be stitching my dot. Now you can pin your dot and mark it, but what I like to do is I just like to take my dot, put it under my sewing machine, and then stitch, and then like put my needle in. When my needle is in, I'm going to pull onto my thread. Then I'm going to position my thread to the end of the dot. And that's how I follow the line. So I don't go and redraw the lines. Like, this is how I do it. It's a little, quick technique that I've learned over the years. It's really helpful. So as you can see, I'm extending that thread to reach the end of the dot, because I made a dot to indicate, the tip of the dot with the end of the dot. And so, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and just stitch. I'm following that thread. I'm following the line that the thread is making. So I'm going to do this for the other side. Sometimes that thread can get caught under the stitches. All you have to do is just, tug it out, pull it out, and then, obviously tie the tip of the thread, then cut off the excess thread. So yeah. So for this next step, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my front pieces and put them together with my back pieces right sides together, pin them at the side seams, and then stitch them in place. I'm not using pins, but I say pin them in place for beginners. But if you're really confident and feel like you don't need to use pins, then don't. So this is what I'm going to do. Just, I'm pinning everything at the side seams, and I'm just going to stitch it going all the way down, making sure that any notches that I do have are lined up. For this next part, what I'm going to do is, you might have noticed that I haven't been finishing my raw edges of the seams. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be using an overcast foot to finish the raw edges. This is going to give my seam finishes like a very professional look. If you don't have an overcast foot, you're gonna need to use your zigzag stitch. The reason why I'm using the overcast foot is I wanted to find an affordable way to finish your seams professionally without having to buy a serger, especially for the beginners. So I highly recommend that you do get this foot. It's gonna help you a lot. And yeah, just go grab one. It's super cheap, super affordable. Anyway, so to use my overcast foot, because it will not act as a because it will not have all the features of a surgery like cutting off my excess seam allowance, I'm going to need to cut the seam allowance myself. So what I like to do is I like to do my projects like I normally would, and then I do all the seam finishes all at the same time. Like yeah. So I like to do everything in bulk basically. So here's what I'm doing. I'm just cutting off all the trimming off the excess seam allowance, but I'm leaving about 5 millimeters of seam allowance yeah, left over, right? Because I'm gonna need that. So as you can see, I'm doing it on all my pieces. I did it on my dress, and I also did it on my facing pieces. So now what I'm going to do is I have now installed my overcast foot, and I'm going to start with the lower edge of my facing. I'm going to make sure that I overlock or finish the raw edges of that, so never frays no matter how many times I wash it. Your sewing machine will come with its own preferred settings for when you're using the overcast foot. Make sure you Google it, get the manual, or go to YouTube and watch another video that might show you how to do it. So yeah, I'm using a brother machine, and yeah, it has its own specific settings for this. So I'm gonna go and I'm just finishing the raw edge of the raw lower edge of the facing. And also you have to, I know I didn't show it here, but you also have to finish the raw edges of the seam allowance. So if you look inside, you can see that I also finished the raw edges of the seam allowance that I trimmed off. So now I'm going to go and grab my dress piece, and I'm going to do this exact same thing. So I don't know why, but for some odd reason, I didn't film the part where I was finishing the raw edges of the seams that I, trimmed the seam allowance from. But anyway, what you're gonna do is you're also gonna have to finish the raw edge of the lower edge of your skirt, your hem. Basically, you're gonna hem the dress before you insert your blanket. This is gonna be really, really important because once we insert the blanket, there won't be a way for us to hem, and it's important to hem correctly. We need to use precisely half an inch, because if we use any more or any less than that, then the blanket is not going to fit. So you want to make sure that for this part you are having like good precision, good calculations and everything. So yeah, we're just gonna finish that, and then I'm gonna go to my iron, and I'm going to fold that hem inwards by half an inch. Then I'm going to take it back to my sewing machine. Then I'm going to just stitch it down, and then I'm going to insert my plackets. So over here, you see me changing my feet, right? My sewing feet. I'm changing it from the overcast foot to the normal foot because I want to quickly hem my dress, basically. When we are done hemming the dress, we're going to move on to attaching our straps. Now, if you're wondering, okay, where do my straps go? So the strap placement for this is going to be, you're going to place the front strap onto, in alignment with the dot. So, there's my dot. So just place it in alignment with it, like, yeah. And then where you place the back dot is you're just going to calculate 5 inches from the side seam on the back, and that's where you're going to place your strap at the back. So over here you see me grabbing my pencil, and I'm just marking 5 inches, and that's where I'm going to place the strap at the back, or you can just place it in the middle of that back piece. So basically the princess line. So yeah, that's how we do that. So now I'm going to do the same thing for my other strap piece. That I'm going to follow that by placing my facing piece on top, and then I'm going to be stitching my facing piece onto my dress. So now I'm going to place my facing piece onto my dress, right sides together, making sure to sandwich my straps in between the two pieces. Then I'm going to stitch that top seam. From there, I'm going to cut off the excess seam allowance. Then I'm going to clip into the curve so that I'm able to open my curves and they lay flat. Then I'm going to continue with an edge stitch or a top stitch, whatever you call it, wherever you're from. And yeah. So to complete the edge stitch, the top stitch, I call it a top stitch. Um, a slip stitch. Yeah, some people call it a slip stitch. I'm just pushing the seam allowance towards my facing piece, right? So push the seam allowance towards your facing piece. Then I'm gonna open that piece, right? Making sure everything is like nice and laying flat and crisp. Then I'm going to be sewing about 2 millimeters away from that original seam. I'm sewing onto the facing piece, and remember, you have to make sure that you are catching that seam allowance that is beneath that piece. So now I'm going to move on to working on my placket piece. So for my placket piece, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half lengthwise. Then I'm going to stitch the top and the bottom, making sure that I'm stitching only half an inch, right? It's going to be very important. Remember, I spoke about having precision here, but otherwise it will not fit with your dress. So it's half an inch, and then I trimmed off the excess. So this is what it will look like. Mind you that what you're seeing right now is after I've trimmed off the excess seam allowance, but yours will be like half an inch, and then you're going to trim off the excess, and then what you're going to do is you're going to turn it inside out. Then I'm going to go ahead and put it to my dress. So that's how I'm putting everything to my dress. I'm lining up the two raw edges together. So basically I'm putting the pieces right sides together, lining up the raw edges, and then I'm putting everything in place. So it may seem, the top part of the packet may seem like it's longer than your dress, but if you stitch at the half an inch seam allowance, everything will fit like perfectly and it will rest perfectly. That tip there, that little corner might seem a little bit longer, but yeah, just stitch everything like you're supposed to, and I promise you it's gonna fit like exactly how it's supposed to. So I'm gonna stitch my placket on, and it's it's really that easy to stitch your placket on. You can also go ahead and like, I'll show you what you can do. But I don't do that because I don't, find it necessary. But it's something that you can also do to reinforce that stitch. You can, so stitch again, stitch the seam allowance. Basically, you can complete a top stitch for the seam allowance of the placket. So over here, I'm doing what I've been doing the entire time, which is I'm just gonna now come off the excess seam allowance. Then I'm gonna go and put in my overcast foot, and I'm going to finish that raw edge. Remember, this is optional. If you want to, you can go ahead and top stitch. You can go ahead and like complete a top stitch to make sure that your blanket is laying flat, or you can just iron it. It's up to you. I chose not to, but that is basically how you put a blanket together. It's so super, super, super simple, super easy, and a nice way to, make a closure for your dresses. When I'm done attaching my blankets, I am going to then start working on putting in my buttons. Yes, my buttons. So now I'm taking my original, my pattern piece, and I've basically cut out the little marks, right, that indicate the button, and I'm just going in with my pencil and I'm pressing my pencil in to transfer those markings, right? I did actually accidentally burn the piece while I was trying to iron it, and I'm sure you can see that little thing over there. That is after I accidentally burned it, but it was too late for me to turn back, so I had to continue the project. These are the buttons that I'm using. Super nice, super cute. I love the color. You can use whatever color you want. You can use like gold to make it look super, super fancy. So now I'm just going to go in and I'm going to sew my buttons. I will not be, showing you guys specifically how to sew a buttonhole, because it will be specific to your, sewing machine. So definitely check out a video tutorial for your sewing machine, how to, sew a buttonhole. But this is what I'm doing. So I'm going to make my buttonholes, and I'm going to then make sew my buttons, and that will be it for the dress. So the video is not over yet because you still have to see the buttons being put, but my instructions are over because at this point you are done. So continue watching the video, but if you enjoyed the video, make sure you comment, you subscribe, you buy the pattern. Let me know what your thoughts are. Anyway, this was a really quick, fun, easy project. It should not take you more than an afternoon to complete.